Welcome to Hollow Hearts 101 with Dr.Jacquie, America's marriage coach. This is the how-to guide to keep your heart full, healthy, and never hollow.
So the conversation that I really wanted to have today is around a question that was posed to me. Why do people seem to be numb in relationships and have hollow hearts? And how this ties into, our interaction with social media. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really good question because I really feel that it's something that's very relevant and very present today in most relationships. Having said that, let me go ahead and lay some groundwork and let's begin to define terms. To me, numb means that you are so protected, that you are so guarded, so afraid of suffering, pain, harm, that you cease to be able to really form strong connections. You cease to be able to, with liberty, without having to edit yourself or edit your emotions, you are who you are authentically at all times, right? So becoming numb it's a consequence of that. And I just think in social media where people are able to say everything that they want to say, they're off camera, it's not one-on-one, it's not interpersonal. They're able to become bolder and a little bit brasser than they normally would be were they communicating with someone in person. And I feel that it's really affected us at a psychological level where we have started to withdraw and wither. They talk about how kids, if they're not hugged or touched, they actually begin to cease to develop properly. Their limbs begin to look different. They get big heads. They look like they're deformed. Is it that our hearts are being deformed because we're lacking the ability to make connections, the ability to have strong interpersonal relationships that are really able to give us the love that we're seeking for and that we need to really be healthy?
At Hollow Hearts 101, we do things a little bit differently. We take about 30 seconds to a minute for you guys to actually take time to reflect on what's being said or what's being asked. In this particular break, one of the things that we want you to focus on is, have you developed properly as a human being when it comes to love? Do you understand what that is? Are you healthy? Or do you have some deformities within your heart about how to love someone?
Talking to somebody this morning, and she was talking about just how she has difficulties in her relationship because she's very stubborn. And she was talking about stubbornness. Well, really, she was just talking about how difficult it is for her to change. But what my observation is that it's her stubbornness that makes it very difficult for her to change. Stubbornness is defined as an inability to move from your own position, your own feelings about something, your own position, right? So in a relationship, God knows you must be able to meet people where they at, to have a discussion and to come to understand, to listen and to hear, and then also to share your own position. And hopefully what happens at the end of the day is you leave there not with your own position being secured, but you've kind of seen through a window into the person's heart how they feel. So it allows you to reposition yourself and to take another perspective, and then to also connect with them and to have a meeting of the minds and the hearts, because now you understand where they're coming from. There just isn't any right or wrong in that whole scenario. To me, that sort of connection is about just that, understanding one another, appreciating and respecting one another. It's not about winning, losing, or maintaining your footing or your position on an issue. So when we talked about that, she discussed how she feels like she has to defend herself. Well, again, wrong response. That's just not a typical response when you're trying to have a heart-to-heart with someone. It's not about defending. It's about, again, trying to find resolve, trying to hear, listen, understand, and be understood. So now, how does social media play into all of this? Well, it's a big part, because what I'm talking about that we need to be able to do, it takes a lot of skill. It's like, you have to be able to understand that your feelings are temporal. So you might feel a way at a certain moment, and our feelings make us either rise or fall, do good or bad, make good decisions or take good actions, or make bad decisions and, take poor actions that harm and hurt our relationship and the people that we love. So I think social media helps us to stay unattached. So we can be numb and distant. You know, I'll talk to people and they'll say, oh, yeah, I'll ask about someone. I talked to them just today. Literally, they didn't talk to the person, they texted. That's like sex with a condom. It's not that same sort of a connection and contact. There is a buffer, there is a layer between you and that person. And to me, that's what social media is. And it numbs us from some of the sensation or some of the experience of really having just authentic, healthy communications with someone else. So, I don't know. I would love to hear how other people see this conversation. How do you feel about the status of your own heart? Is it hollow? Are you still really feeling? Are you numb because you choose to be, because you're afraid of getting hurt? You're afraid of being rejected? Are you afraid of even falling in love and being happy because you don't know when it's going to end? Whatever it might be, I think we have to start with the question, is this me or is this you? Is it you that has a hollow heart or experiencing some form of numbness in your relationships? Do you run in to engage others and feel good about being in relationship to them? Or do you like being more aloof and having that distance? Being quick on with the thumbs, to be texting, but not so quick to be in person and having real live, I don't know what the word would be, but just free flowing, real time moments with individuals that are just off script, that are unedited, where you just get to be you. I also think that sometimes we're not the person that others think that we are. And sometimes we feel like we're too small for our britches, that our britches are just too big. And we're afraid to really be authentic in all moments. All of these are things that I think lead us to be numb, lead us to be disconnected, connected just enough so that you don't feel like you're alone, but not authentic. Connected just enough to feel like you have some sort of companionship and that there's relationships around about you, but they have no depth. Now that's important. I just said something that somebody should pay me for, but the relationships have no depth. Social media is definitely a culprit of that. When you can tell somebody that you love them only on a text or through social media, or when you can break up with someone using social media, but you can't have those kind of conversations that precipitated that in person, something's wrong. So maybe it is you.
Is it you? The question that Dr.Jacquie is asking. Do you have the depth that you feel that you need in your relationships? Are you going through the motions, or are you really connecting with people and truly being vulnerable? Are you scared of what it is that you truly desire? Are you scared of relationships? Are you scared of hurting again? Have you vowed to make sure that you're never hurt again in that same way?
This is the second part of our podcast. We got to figure out, how do we heal? How do we heal the numb or the hollow heart? And you know what? I have to start by saying this. You got to get ready to roll up your sleeves, because any kind of change is going to take some work. It's going to take some intentionality and commitment to the process. And there are some very simple steps to the process, but they take time. And then number two, as a disclaimer, sometimes they hurt a little. But that's okay, because for that particular pain that you're going to experience, it's going to yield a lifetime of joy, peace, and happiness. So, it's like you go to the doctor, you get that little shot, it lasts for a little second, and then it gives us something that we really need. Similarly, what I'm going to talk about is going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start with this, just my own life, right? Sometimes we go through life and we've dealt with different hurts and we've dealt with different upsets and disappointments, and we really don't recognize how much they change us. You know why? Because we just don't like pain. We don't like to suffer, but life is nothing but a, a tapestry of pain and suffering, ups and downs, disappointments, joy, breakthroughs. And so you have to receive the good with the bad. So I didn't realize that I had really started to change. I used to always be that person that was always joking and laughing all the time. It took me working with one of my children to see how he's always laughing and joking to realize that that used to be me. Where did my laughter go? Right? So I heard this question in the back of my mind. When was the last time you cried? When was the last time you cried? And I had to think about it. I can't remember crying for 3-4 years. No, I think it was longer than that. I can't think of the last time I've cried in close to 10 years. Does that sound like somebody that has a hollow or a numb heart? I think the answer to that would be a resounding yes. And so then I had to try to figure out, why have I not cried? And I think this is my constitution. I decide when tragic things have happened to me that I will not let them bring me down, stop me, or hinder my progress. And so I think that what I do is I kind of tuck it away and I just kind of push it aside because I'm able to do that. Some people are able to forget that things happen to them. They're able to compartmentalize, go and be very stoic at work, and then come home on the drive home, they're crying like a baby. And you would never know because there's not even a crack in their armor, not even a crack. You can't see that there's any suffering or pain, or that they're not always on their A game, or not at the top of their happiness cycle, right? A hollow or a numb heart is the result of us just deciding that we're not going to deal with a lot of our pain and that we're going to avoid any more being added to our list as we go through our journey in life. And so that detachment from what we really feel and what we really think and what we're really going through, I think is a big part of it. To just try to ignore it and deny that it really did get us in our crawl, at the depth of us, is doing ourselves an injustice. So the first thing is to figure out, am I numb? Do I have a hollow heart? And you'll know that if you don't really give all of yourself anymore to people, if you don't like people, if you're afraid of people, if you don't like to socialize with a lot of people. And I'm not talking about whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I'm talking about you genuinely don't like a lot of people, and you'll know because you'll start with this sentence. Well, I don't like to be around like people start things, or can be dangerous. People are hurtful. If those sorts of analogies or judgments are made in connection with you not wanting to connect with people, I say yes, you probably are numb or hollow, but definitely running from pain. So the first thing that you have to do after you determine that that's you is you have to begin to excavate what's at the root of this numbness. What is it that you're trying not to feel that you really need to feel? And you might, when you're thinking about this, usually some things are going to begin to surface. Some things are going to pop up in your memory that happened to you. A lot of them wouldn't be on your conscious mind. You wouldn't even remember that they happened. But now you'll begin to remember these things that happened. Walk through it. Yes, it's going to bring up some bad memories, but they'll only be for a moment. Remember, the shot. It's a momentary discomfort, affliction, but it's going to yield a lifetime of good. So you want to walk through and figure out, what were the things? Just start to ask the questions. The what, the when, the how, and the why. What was it that this thing made me feel? What was it that it took from me? What did I feel that I lost? Why did this thing happen to me? What is my perspective about why it happened to me? Sometimes we blame other people for why stuff happens to us. But I think that the why should always include what was their portion in it, but it should also include what was your role in it. And I think that as you start to ask the what, the when, the why, we'll get to the how. How do I move now from these horrible things that happened to me? How do I move forward wholly, meaning wholly as a person that's not broken, that's not lacking or missing anything. Because now that harmful thing that happened to you can serve as your tuition. It's teaching you something about how to do life in the next phase, life after the hurt, life after the trauma. And as I often say, sometimes these activities will help you to remember who you were before this thing happened to you. You got to remember your superpower. And you got to remember how to unfold that cape, whether you got it in your back pocket or in your pocketbook, your purse. Take that cape out and reclaim your superpower. But now you're even more ferocious than you were before. You're battered to the bone, even to the marrow, than you ever were. Because you're not just armed with a cape, but you're also armed with lessons that you can now employ as you go forward. To me, a lot of times people do to you what you allow. So who is it that you need to be that you didn't have the wisdom, you didn't have the oomph to be when they hurt you? Now you got to know that, so that when you move forward, you're moving forward armed, deadly, ready to love. That's what I mean by armed, deadly, ready to love, not holding back, but also so skillful that you know who to give that love to. You know when to give it to them, and you know the amount to give. And I'm going to sign off with that because I don't think I can say anything else. I'm going to put a period dot at the end of that sentence.
Thank you for listening and tuning in to Hollow Hearts 101 with Dr. Jacqueline Del Rosario. If you have any topics you'd like to pose, any questions for Dr. D, or anything that you just want to get off your chest, please come visit us at www.hollowhearts101.com. There, you'll be able to fill out a form with your first name, last name, so on and so forth. So you can pose your questions, ask your topics that you want to be heard, and more importantly, let us know what you want to hear. Take care. You have an awesome week.